Welcome, everyone, to this episode of SoulFull Sessions, a captivating conversation to nourish and nurture your soul with Harmony Brown. I am so excited to have her on the show today, and we're going to be talking about holistic healing. All right, little bit about Harmony before we really just dive into this particular episode. Harmony is an acupuncture physician, a certified functional medicine practitioner, a meditation instructor, and a wellness coach. Yes, and she's also a mom of a gorgeous little girl that, well, she's not so little, she probably would not appreciate me saying that. Harmony seamlessly integrates holistic and functional medicine with her intuitive understanding of the physical body and emotional health, the root of who we are and connection to health and healing. She takes inventory of the many ways each person has lost balance within their body as well as within their lives and designs a plan to reestablish that balance. She is highly motivated to empower and support each patient in making the necessary and positive changes to feel their very best, which when I read those words out loud to you all, I'm sure you can just feel that energy that Harmony is exuding from, her and her practice. As everyone knows who listens to SoulFull Sessions, I always share the sun, moon, and rising sign of each of my guests and what they're known for saying. So Harmony, this may be new to you as far as knowing your sun, moon, and rising sign. Do you have any sense of those already?
No, I'm super excited to hear all of this.
Cool. All right, so here we go. So Harmony is a Gemini sun, a Virgo moon, and a Taurus rising. And as you are going to find out very shortly about Harmony as she and I dive into this captivating conversation. When you think Gemini, the mantra for Gemini is I think. The mantra for Virgo is I analyze. And I know Harmony personally and professionally. And so I know that she is this sponge of knowledge and information. She experiences something or sees something that really captures her. She dives in, she'll go to school and learn about it. And she will just immerse herself in whatever that is and use that knowledge for the highest and best good of her patients and her friends and I assume family too, anyone that comes in contact with her. So that's really cool. Taurus is I have. And you can think of that in terms of, if you think of it in terms of healing and you think of it in terms of knowledge, Taurus is an earth sign. And and Virgo is an earth sign. So it's this grounded, really soft, nurturing energy. Virgo is the goddess. So the moon sign is the goddess, is that mother energy, that nurturing energy. So when you come into her office, which I've been to, it does have this really welcoming, nurturing feel to it. It just is like you walk in and you're like, oh, okay, I know I'm safe here. I know I'm going to be taken care of here. The Taurus, which is the rising, it's what you're presenting to the world. It's what you're, almost like you're rising into, it's your ascendant. And that's a patient, stable, determined energy. So I can also see that too with Harmony within her work and her personal life. She is very patient. Maybe not always. I don't know this for sure, but I'm kind of intuiting just a little bit. You have it in you, but sometimes it may be challenging. There's a stable feel to you, a determination. Taurus is the bull. So you maybe sometimes can go in charging, but it's coming from a genuinely good place.
Right.
Gemini is an air sign. So it's mental. So a lot of time spent here. Again, I think. So you're thinking about doing your best to put things together. And then it's also very adaptable. So if you think about, as I mentioned before with Harmony, she is an acupuncture physician, functional medicine. It is about being adaptable, adapting to what's in front of you and finding the best way to heal, the best way to navigate whatever is maybe a challenge or a struggle, or, be able to adapt to the beauty in your life and really expand that out. So it's really, really cool. So, I'm glad that I was able to share that with you for the first time, Harmony.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know I've had some readings prior, and I've done some things but it's just so nice to hear it again. And like, I actually can't wait to replay this so I can go back, and like listen again. Cause I know, right now there's like, this is action, this is happening right now. So I
Right,
can't wait to go
right.
back and actually like have that resonate. But yeah, I'm just so grateful that you had mentioned that that's the feel that you get when you walk into my office, because I mean, that is the goal, is as soon as you walk into the door, healing starts like as soon as the door opens. So the fact that that was what you were
Yeah,
experiencing is amazing. But
yeah,
um, Taurus, I definitely can go in like a bull. I definitely think and analyze everything, and I jump into most things. I'm always seeking information and more. So I have, drawers full of certifications. Some I use, some I don't. Some it wasn't for the usage of those things. It's
yeah.
just always thinking and analyzing. And yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's very fun to do.
You're welcome. Yeah, it is fun. I think, and I particularly love it when my guests have not had someone share these things in this way. And it's like, it's the first time, and I see their face light up with like, oh my gosh, and that's totally me. And oh yeah, it's really, really cool. Okay. And then this, I love Harmony's, her quote, what she's known for saying. And she and I had a conversation about this because it's so funny. Some people know immediately, like, oh, this is what I say all the time. Some people say, I got to get back to you on that. And some people say, well, there's this and there's this and there's this, and I'm not really sure. So Harmony kind of went in two directions. She went into her personal known for saying and her professional known for saying. And it's really cute. She's from Seattle, Washington. So she had shared with me earlier that she's still that Northwest gal. Like she's got the colloquialisms, the rad, the stoked, the dude, all the stuff from the 90s, aging her a little bit on this, but if you're watching the video, you can see she's gorgeous. And so it's, and those are things that, anyone that would know her knows that she speaks in that way. But her professional quote, which I love, is, you can't fake it for 5,000 years. What she's referring to is the acupuncture, this like functional medicine. It's what I think in terms of today's standards, I think people are beginning to open up to it again, like we're coming back around, but we've been so reliant on Western medicine and pharmaceuticals and synthetic drugs and taking a pill to make it all better, instead of really getting into the deeper root cause of, okay, what's going on in my body? Why is this physical condition showing up? Why do I feel like I feel? And really digging in deeply with that and healing the body naturally. Everything that we need to heal ourselves is available naturally. So I think that I will likely use that going forward, if you don't mind, Harmony.
Absolutely.
When sharing with people, because I am all for, the advances of modern medical technology and science, 100%. But in my opinion, it's like, why start there? Why don't
Exactly.
start with the natural route and see how it goes? And you may be pleasantly surprised at how powerful it can be. And I think, if you don't mind, I'm gonna ask my opening question that I ask every guest, and then I would love for you to share your story about your experience with medicine at Eastern and Western, and your journey. But before we get to that, if you don't mind sharing about a recent experience that really lit you up, when you just knew it was your soul talking to you.
Yeah. So I have just recently opened Reclaim Wellness, and it's in about the 6th or 7th month now. And I had a previous practice for 13 years. And, opening up this new practice was, timing wise, because we were in the middle of COVID. And, I just remember when you say it out loud, hey, listen, I think I am going to open a new practice, and I'm going to sign a lease, and I'm going to, do all of these things. And I'm sharing this, with my husband even. And he's like, are you sure this is right? Like, is this the right timing? Like, let's really think about this. Like, what are we doing here? And honestly, it literally felt, it it is still lighting me on fire now. I mean, everything that I do in each day, I just know, like, I just, I literally took that information in and just felt it, not even listened, but like felt it in my bones. Is like, this is right. This is true. This is what you want. This is what you need. This is all the things. And I couldn't be, happier right now. And, so I'm very happy because there was a lot of people along the way, saying like, are you sure this, it's so uncertain and scary, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to subscribe to that. Like, I'm right here and this is what's happening. And it's been amazing. So
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I'll share personally, I've been in Harmony's new office, as I alluded to earlier, during this time of COVID. And I got an amazing acupuncture facial, which I had never heard of until I discovered it with Harmony. And so she and I spent probably a little bit longer than the allotted amount of time because we were chit-chatting away. But it felt so incredibly healing and amazing. I mean, a facial in and of itself was amazing, but then, just, I think the energy that you bring to it and the fact that, like, for me, I needed that. I needed that self-love, self-care practice of, okay, I'm doing this for me and I'm taking this time for myself. And I think that's something that we can all use anytime, but particularly in times of crisis or stress or, anxiety, taking time to really reconnect in. And so whether you're going in for an acupuncture appointment, or you have a medical condition, or it's preventative, and we're going to be getting into that a little bit too, it doesn't matter what it is. It's just something that you do for yourself. So I would love to leave people with this a mindset of, it's not an extra. It's not a luxury. It's a, a non-negotiable piece of taking care of yourself. Kind of like brushing your teeth for most is a non-negotiable,
exactly.
Imagine this is the same way. And, and recognize there's all different ways of loving yourself and caring for yourself. And that that's just one of them. And so I am grateful to you for opening Reclaim Wellness and for being open during this time, and, a support for people that really could use some support.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, so, I've already kind of hinted and teased everyone a little bit about your story. And, obviously Harmony has shared this with me before, and I asked her to share it again with you today because I think it's really, really powerful. And I think it's a perfect example of, following your inner guidance, knowing that there's another way, and being open to the possibilities and having faith and trust to follow that. And she shared one example, but this one I think is going to blow you guys away. So Harmony, would you mind kind of taking us from the top as far as your story that got you on this path?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so early on, I was 19 years old, and actually I got a hit. I think a lot of times people will say like a little ding or something, and I needed to travel. Like, I had to. I was on fire to travel. So I actually stopped everything, picked up, and then backpacked Eastern and Western Europe for 3 months by myself at 19. During that time, the last week of travel, I was ill, ill to the point where like I couldn't like walk up a flight of stairs without either passing out um, or having to sit down and rest. So when I came home, I remember telling my parents, weirdest thing, I can't breathe out of this like one lung. And oh, and by the way, like I can't make it from my downtown Seattle studio apartment that's 400 square feet. I can't make it from one side to the next. So, making this condensed version, I was diagnosed with cancer at 19 and did everything Western. I did, chemo and radiation. It was extremely advanced. It was a stage 3B. And I just remember them telling me that I needed to not start chemo in the morning, but I needed to start it now. And it was actually 2:00 in the morning because they didn't want to wait. And I was like, okay. I also remember, my mom, having them tell my mom that I had cancer and having her jump into my bed obviously as any mother, she's just destroyed. And I just remember looking at her and I'm like, I'm not going to die. Like, it's not even a question, not even at all. So I did traditional and everything was well as could be. I did what I needed to do and I got through that. Fast forward 4.5 years, I did have a reoccurrence, and I ended up asking, why did this happen again? I have lots of thoughts on that too, but I just remember saying, like, I did everything that they told me to do and it came back. So what is missing? So my family, again, being in Seattle, we're all a little bit of a tree hugger. So we went to Mexico. We met with some doctors outside of the box, American doctors doing things that just aren't usually practiced here in the United States. And I brought them everything and they said, listen, this is what you're going to do. You're going to go back. You will take these herbs, change your diet, do all of these things, find an acupuncturist, find an herbalist, do all of this, which was all in Seattle. So that I had that at my disposal. And you will have a stem cell transplant. That is going to be the best thing for you. And of course I was crushed because I didn't want to have to do any of that again. My husband was actually with me then. He was my boyfriend then, but I'm crying because I know exactly what this looks like. And he's destroyed because he has no idea what this looks like. And, I can say he's still here today. That the differences between those treatments though was, my first go around, I had to take something to sleep, something to poop, something for nausea, something for everything. And I just had a cabinet full of medications, which I didn't love then, but I didn't have any time to really think about those types of things. Second go around, I did have some time. It was caught at a routine, scan. And so it was caught at a stage 1. And although aggressive, I did think I had some time. So seeing all of those people, changing my diet, seeing an acupuncturist, doing all of the things, I was supposed to be in the hospital for 2 months with my stem cell transplant. And I was out in 2 weeks and 3 days. Everybody said, you're the poster child for, stem cell transplants, and I'm like, no, actually, you have no idea what my diet looks like. I haven't had a beer in over a year, like they just kind of negated a lot of the things and efforts that were going into this. But I was able to harvest my own stem cells. I mean, if you could imagine, I was as healthy as I could ever be going into that, which ultimately, obviously it's been a great outcome. But I had those 2 experiences to compare. And my second go around using acupuncture for pain or for nausea or, for sleeping or for anything, I didn't have to take anything else. I was just doing the treatments and doing okay. And the treatments were extremely difficult at that time. And so it's been amazing. And I know I said I had some thoughts about why I think it came back. I really do think at 19, I didn't want to listen to any of it. And I really think this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so sometimes I think it was like, whoever is up there, God, universe, whatever you want to say, it was like, oh my gosh, you didn't get it the first time. Whoa, we have to throw this at you again. Maybe if you get it the second time, you'll go on the path. And that's kind of where I think it all headed from there. So it's nice. I like to think that now, that compassion that I can bring to the treatments is I've been now on both sides of the table. And I think that that's a different type of healing, a different type of way of treating, is because every time I look at who's laying on my table, I immediately go there and say, I've been this person, and how do I want to be treated? How do I want to be heard? How do I want to be seen? It's really changed everything. So
I think that's a great distinction because, I think most doctors or healing practitioners have a level of empathy and an understanding and compassion. But when you have experienced something similar to the person that's sitting in front of you or laying on your table, that's different. I mean, this is a little bit of a different situation, but I would liken it to someone that has gone through a divorce. You can imagine how upsetting it is and how devastating it is. And it's, heartbreak. But until you've actually been in it, you don't really fully know what that's like, and I mean, I can speak to that. That's something I can speak to personally that, many others listening may be able to relate to if it's not a health crisis or something along those lines. It really does make a difference the way you show up offer support and assistance to someone else who's in a similar situation. I mean, I think that's so incredibly powerful and so incredibly true.
Yeah,
being able to show up in that way. Something else I wanted to ask you about, as far as these alternative methods of healing, being able to look at our body. So a lot of us think about healing and health in terms of just the physical. So I have a pain here, I have an ache there, this isn't working properly or whatever it is. Those who may have done a little bit more of that alternative healing, alternative thinking, thinking in terms of the whole instead of just parts, not just your physical body, but your mental, emotional, and spiritual. It's my belief that, physical conditions stem from some sort of emotional trauma, some sort of spiritual trauma that may have occurred in this life, maybe perhaps in another, if you believe in past lives. And it's when it shows up in the physical, it's really kind of like what you were saying. You were given an opportunity to get the lesson the first time, and you didn't. So the cancer decided to reappear so that you were sure to get the lesson the next time. So when it comes to healing, and when it comes to support, what would you say would be like, your patented answer for somebody that's like, okay, Harmony and I talked about this before. People are like, well, everything's fine. Like, I feel good. Nothing's really going on. I don't even know why I would go see Harmony or a similar practitioner because everything is great. When she and I were talking about that earlier, we were kind of chuckling about that because there's it's not like there's always something going on underneath, but there is typically some sort of something that's just hanging out, and you may not see it. Like, it's probably like a little whisper, and then it might be someone speaking at a normal level, and then it's going to be a scream, and then they're going to hit you in the head, and then they're going to smack you in the face, and it's like it's going to just continue to escalate until you pay attention. And there were probably whispers before you ended up, not being able to walk across your 400 square foot apartment that you ignored or didn't see. And, it's totally normal. It's human nature to not want to go there because you already know, like, oh man, like once I go there, there's no turning back, and like I'm in it and I'm going to have to deal with it. I really don't want to deal with it. Like, I want to just coast along. So what would you say would be the most supportive practice for people to really tune into themselves? I know you're a huge proponent of meditation. I 100% agree. So meditation is kind of the ubiquitous go-to. So beyond that, what would you recommend to people, if they're like, oh, everything's fine, nothing's happening? What would you say to them?
Well, let me ask you some questions and let's see if it's actually fine. Because usually we can dig some stuff up for sure, and we don't have to dig too deep. So yeah, usually, so my first thing is if really, let's say everything is really fine, then let's keep it that way. The idea with acupuncture or how, the origination of acupuncture was prevention. So doctors, 5,000 years ago, on the countryside with families that they would treat in these, in these villages, they only got paid if the families were healthy. So let that sink in for a second. So
Wow.
their whole goal was to make sure that they were consistent in care, to make sure that there was no ill happenings. And so, we are so far from that, but we don't have to be. If you feel well, we all get our cars, oil changes and tune-ups. We don't wait for it to rattle, or hopefully we don't. But, we if we want to use these bodies and do all of the things, then we should also, invest in these bodies and take care of these bodies. So when somebody says, I don't really know what I would see you for, first I usually say, well, prevention is number one. Let's just make sure that you're as healthy as you can be, doing all the things that you want to be doing in life, for as long as we can. And if we do sit down and we kind of go over a health history, I ask every question under the sun. How do you sleep? How do you poop? Do you have acid reflux after you eat? It's everything. How do you think? What are the thoughts that come through? What do you do, to create joy in your life? Is there pain in your body? Like, would you, sometimes we normalize a lot of things. Like, would you say you're hormonal? Because sometimes women will just be like, oh, I'm just hormonal right now. Well, what does that mean? Like, do you have a painful period? Are you super cranky? Nobody can be around you for, 7 days out of the 30? Like, what are the things? Because there's usually a lot of listed things that we can look at. And we don't have to normalize some of the things that we have. We don't have to have painful periods or, have these hormonal imbalances. We don't have to have GI distress. We don't have to have panic attacks, even though sometimes people say, well, lots of people are anxious. So kind of coming in and saying, what do I deal with? Because sometimes that's what it is. What am I dealing with each day? And then how can we really optimize that? Optimize health, optimize, where you can have more resiliency with your stress instead of being so highly reactive or having a panic attack or something. How can we increase that threshold for stressors so you can still have the job and have the relationships and do all of the things, but you're not having those physical negative manifestations that are happening in the body, which sometimes we just say are normal. And that's why they would say, I don't know what I would see you for, even though we tend to find some things.
I think that's really cool that you bring up the questions and really, those were just a few questions. There's like a lot more on the intake. And just from that, I guarantee you that somebody listening to this right now is going, I never thought about that. And yeah, like I do say those things, or I do that. And maybe there is something more to this. Maybe I can, live a better, easier existence with a little bit of support. Because that's the thing. It's not about like, a complete overhaul or revamp of your life completely. It might just be small tweaks, just little things that you can do to shift that a little bit. And, acupuncture being one of them. And I know that, Harmony, that's actually how I first met Harmony, is at a yoga event here in Delray Beach, Florida. And it's so funny. I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, Harmony, but when I came in for the event, Harmony was one of the first people I saw. And I had no idea who she was. I had no idea that she was affiliated with the event, like nothing, but I had just moved to Florida and I was looking to really just connect with people that had similar interests as me. And if you're at the yoga event and it's more like this holistic sort of vibe, we're likely going to get along pretty well. And I don't know how I knew, but I was like, I think she is the acupuncturist for this event. And if you recall, I came up to you and said, hey, are you the acupuncturist for this event? And I wanted to share some stuff on social media to help, get the word out about her and what she does. And this was before I had experienced it. It was just like one woman business owner to another, like, I got you, girl, cool, that sort of thing. But it was the sense of like, you had this like vibe, you had this like aura, if you will. And I'm not one of those people that can see auras. That's not one of my skills. However, I can feel it. And I could feel that you had this really soft, nurturing, yet powerful nature about you. And so, I've been working with an acupuncturist in the DC area before I moved here. And I was, thinking about, okay, who's going to not take the place of her, but who's going to continue that support and that healing. And after it was a Reiki and acupuncture meditative sort of setting, and a good friend of both Harmony's and mine, she had partnered with for that, which, she's just awesome. She's been on my podcast in the past before, Jess Prestia. So at any rate, it was such a powerful event, where all of this incredible healing took place. And I think that event, you only had put in maybe 2 or 3 needles. It wasn't a lot. It was so I think my point in bringing this up is, it doesn't matter what the situation is. It doesn't matter what the environment is. And it doesn't even matter how many needles are used. You're going to get what it is that you need to get. And I'd love for Harmony, for you to talk a little bit about the needles and about the process and what happens. Because one of the biggest things that I hear from so many people, from my clients in particular, who I recommend that they go and see an acupuncturist and get that energetic support, they're like, well, I don't like needles. It's scary. Like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. And, I'm here to say it's really nothing. It's so, as far as the pain, okay, it's really something as far as what happens, but as far as the pain, like, you really don't feel anything. And the only time I have ever felt, and I'm pretty tuned into how the energy runs in my body, and I'm pretty clued in. The only time I've ever had any sort of like, and I wouldn't even call it pain, it was just like a wow, was when I had some really, really incredibly dense stuck energy, and I could feel the needle connect in with that, and kind of, it's almost like a shock to it, like it comes in, it's like,
Yeah.
and it just disperses. And I could feel that, and it was just this like, wow. But for me, when I feel that, I love it, because then I know, hot diggity damn, this is going to be something that's moving. It's not going to plague me anymore. It's going. And then I know that some deeper healing can take place. So I know I just threw a lot at you, but so if I could recap, you could share a little bit about the needles, and then about what the needles offer us as far as healing is concerned.
Okay. The needles. The biggest, if there was ever a roadblock, which is like our one instrument that we use, that's the roadblock, is the needle. Everybody thinks I'm going to be coming at them with like a hypodermic if they don't know, like 1,000 flu shots, something like this. So it couldn't be further from that. I do always like to share that the needle is the same. It's like a cat whisker. So there's an image, and it's out there on Google. There's a hypodermic that they line up, and then inside where the solution comes out of the cord area of that needle, they will stick 40 acupuncture needles in it. So it's one hypodermic and 40 acupuncture needles sticking out. So just to visualize that a little bit of what that looks like, they're the size of a pore. So I do often say, like, I'm never going to say, because the next question is, does it hurt? And many times people will be like, you don't feel a thing. And I'm like, okay, that's untrue. So that is a lie. You will feel something, as you're supposed to, just like you had experienced. So I don't say that it's pain, but it's often sensations, and those sensations can be amazing. So sometimes it's a dullness or a heat or a little bit of electricity. Oftentimes when it's their first experience and they're laying there, I'll leave and let them kind of lay, and I'll come back and I'm like, are you noticing anything, or do you want to share? And they'll say like, I don't know what I'm feeling, but I'm feeling it, and sometimes it's just a throb. They feel things moving through. So you will feel something, and it's totally okay. And sometimes if you don't, like, really, if you didn't feel anything, the next time often you will, because sometimes things are like, it's a lower vibration. And so that those feelings aren't so energetic, but we're going to get you there so that you do feel a lot of that heaviness that comes with that deep relaxation. So, the needles themselves, I like to share that they're just like tiny little emails. So there's thousands of points, depending if it's Chinese acupuncture, Korean acupuncture, Japanese. So these little points, these little tiny points, when they go in, it's literally sending an email to the brain that says, this is what we would like you to do. It's all about a redistribution of energetics. People cannot even conceptualize that if they have back pain, I might not actually put a needle in their back. I might stick it like behind their shoulder or down at their ankle. And they're like, I don't know what you're doing, but whenever you do it, it always works. So I won't ask questions. But people ask, did I have needles in my back for my back pain? And I'll say, nope, So it's just about the redistribution of energetics. With acupuncture, there's always three things that I say are happening. One is we're just trying to move everything in the rate in which it's designed. Energy is supposed to flow. It's supposed to be in balance. It's this, not woo woo. It's the same energy that you have when you wake up in the morning or you don't. Some people spring out of bed. Majority of my practice are not those people. That's what they're striving for, right? So when we talk about energy, this is the energy I'm talking about, the energy that you have to either do your day or struggle through the day. But we want to make sure that it's going to the top of the head and to the bottom of the feet. That energy, where energy goes, blood flows. So where blood is flowing, again, if it is stagnant, we feel stuck emotionally. If it's stagnant, it could be, a perfect example would be pain. I usually have to use pain for men. Like if there's blood stagnation, that stagnation feels sharp and shooting. If it's energetic stagnation, because it's not actually tangible, you don't see or feel energy, when you open up the body. So it's more of like this dull, achy, gnawing kind of pain. But another one for blood stagnation is if you're female and you've ever had a painful period and you're doubled over with a cramp, that is blood stagnation. So when things get stuck, they're up to no good.
I like that.
Really, it's the truth. And then the lymphatic system, we need to make sure that it's blood, the lymphatic system, and energetics. That lymphatic system is supposed to irrigate naturally and eliminate. And if it's stuck, we can feel it sometimes. We get swollen glands when we're sick, and it's really, they're working on overdrive to try to clear. So that's one thing, is just that movement, that energetics of movement. The second thing is going to be sort of turning down the dial on inflammatory responses. So we get to, again, not making it like this biology, but we get to really just kind of dial it back on the way things are signaling. And lastly, our organ systems. The organ systems themselves, when I ask all these questions over the hour and a half of time that I'm doing the intake, it's really to figure out what needs to be in balance. Are we waking up in the middle of the night? Are we sluggish all through the day? Is our digestion off? So that we can kind of throw things up on a whiteboard and say, okay, these are the things that those organ systems treat and are managing. And, what do we see, so that we can bring back balance to this body and work on, energetically bringing those organ systems back to synergy, or increasing those organ reserves, so we have that type of efficiency for the body. There's a lot. It's so much.
What's really striking me now, and that I'm and please correct me if I'm wrong, what the cool thing about acupuncture in particular is that you can pinpoint, forgive the pun, different systems within the body pretty quickly and at one time. So it's not like, in traditional medicine, okay, so I have an issue with, my GI tract, so I'm going to go to, either a GI doctor, maybe if it's or a urologist. All right, now I have something going on with my heart, so now I'm going to go to a cardiologist to look at that. This is a science that's looking at the entire picture, because all of these systems are interrelated. So if you're able to support the whole, the individuals will operate better at a higher level. Would that be a fair assumption?
No, absolutely. I tell all of the patients that come in, I'm like, we are not going to chop you up into pieces. Like, I'm today not treating your elbow, tomorrow treating your digestion, the next day working on stress. Like, it's all feeding in. You only have one body. These things cannot run from itself. So we have to sort of bring it all together. And, oftentimes if somebody comes in and they have sciatic, let's say we have 2 patients with sciatic, if somebody comes in and they say, my stress is a 10 out of 10, I'm at my breaking point, I hate my job, my family's terrible, all of these things, and they're literally a 10 out of 10 in stress. Oh, but can you get rid of my sciatic pain? And then another person comes in and says, hey, listen, I have sciatic pain, my life is great, I do all the things, I exercise, I've got a lovely job, I have all these creative outlets, I'd say my stress is maybe a 2 situationally. Can you get rid of my back pain? Yes, I can, because the environment changes. We have such a connection with, the way our thoughts actually change the way this body works. So that's why I do actually dive pretty deep into, sort of like those emotional pieces as well, because emotions, negative emotions are going to stagnate energy as quickly as some, traumatic injuries. We just don't realize it.
And that's a great point that you bring up about, the distinction between the 2 patients, one coming in that life is pretty good, but there's a pain, another one where life isn't that fantastic and there's a pain. I know a number of the clients and the people that I work with, I've noticed there's a bit of a shift within my client base with relationship focus. They're looking for some stability within their personal relationships, because it's like a ripple effect. Something happens within your most intimate and personal relationships. It will then affect your friendships, that will then affect your job. It will then affect your, your level of happiness. Like you can cope and you can deal and everything's fine. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, you wake up and you realize like everything has gone to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
And then that's when the physical conditions will often creep in. And so, I think it's so important to be able to, get that assistance within your relationships, because your relationships are your mirrors for yourself. They're going to show you those little areas where you may need a little bit of nurturing, a little bit of awareness around something that's going on within you. As much as you like to point your finger at the other person, it's going on within you, which is why the physical condition may show up and appear. It's kind of like what we were sharing before about the whisper to the smack in the face. It will escalate until you pay attention. So, if that's your situation and you're looking at your life and realizing like, wow, this really stems from that, the stuff that's going on with my mom that's been happening forever, or this situation with my wife or my husband that I haven't spoken up about and it's just festering and I have all this resentment that's built up, address that. Find somebody that can help you navigate that and look at you and the other person and help you tune into yourself, because a lot of times it's a loss of awareness and understanding about who you are and what you really need in your life. And it may be you need to have a tough conversation, or you need to take a break from somebody for a little while. And those are tough things to do. So please reach out to me or somebody else, that can help you navigate, that aspect of it, and maybe show you those sticky points that may not be super fun before you get to a point where you need to go see Harmony for, like a bigger dive into the physical body. Do you have any further thoughts on that, Harmony, as far as support and prevention?
No, I mean, I think that, I do often see people coming in and they say, I want to be well, I want to be healthy. How do I get healthy? What do I need to do? Tell me what I need to do. And we have those conversations because it's not one or the other. It's not physical health and or emotional health. We are healthy as a whole when both physical and emotional health are coming together in this joint union. So that's why, in my practice, I do have a variety of things, because it's so important. Like, we can't just do the one, like we have to look at the whole. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, it really is. So as I had also mentioned before, Harmony is like a prolific learner. She has her drawer of certifications. She offers so many different modalities within, what you offer so many within your practice. What would you say, and again, this is kind of a general statement, but what would you say as far as what you've noticed with your patients and your 16 plus years of practicing? What have you found to be the most powerful form of healing for most people, where they will notice the biggest impact or difference? Would it be acupuncture, or is there something else? Big question, I know.
I am going to say to that is, I have to really think about this. I really, in the last year, this has changed in the 16 years. I have found that I never actually loved the word healer. Like, people would say healer to me. Oh, this is, she's my acupuncturist, she's a healer. And because I am not doing the healing, like, I get to facilitate that change. I get to be part of the team. And I really want it to go back to them. I really want it to be them doing this work so that they are healing them, and I get to be there in that journey, and blessed to be on that ride with them and to help facilitate and educate and inspire along the way. I love acupuncture in the piece where, yes, I get to go in and like really help them raise their vibration and work on a lot of those physical things, because when they start to feel better, there's more momentum. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So like, if somebody has digestive issues and they're always just feeling, really taking that out of the equation and then watching them start to flourish is amazing. It's phenomenal. Or taking away that anxiety, or letting them sleep a full night's rest, all of those things. I find it to be amazing and incredible that I can be part of that. But I do love when they start to notice that, like, they get to do their healing, and they that I'm just a piece. Again, acupuncture, when we talk about Chinese medicine, acupuncture is just one sort of prong, and then there's nutrition, and then there's movement, and then there's meditation and spirituality and all of these different things. And so I do get to think that it's opening a box. I love the functional medicine piece of it, as far as I do believe that in Chinese medicine, they were the original functional medicine experts. They were doing the intakes and looking at all the things and asking the questions. And now we have a new spin on it. And, even just running now, when somebody's coming to me, running labs and having a baseline, not because something's wrong, but like, let's see what we're working with, and let's see how we can optimize this, and what plans do we need to put into place, or even supplements, as far as what this looks like for right now, because the body is always changing and evolving. But I think in the last 16 years, when people are coming in, what do I see is I just feel like they just need a little bit of a push in the right direction. And I feel like sometimes in Western medicine, we sort of take the wind from their sails, as like, you can't do this on your own. It is what it is. Well, your mom had bad knees, so do you. And I really like to be a part of that change. We don't have to have it be that way just because that's the way that it was, or that's the way that we were told the story should go. Very much, you might have the same issues as your mom, because when you grew up with her, you were eating the same food with the same thought process, with the same patterns, the same daily routine, but there's always an opportunity to change. And there's so many ways to make those changes. I do love acupuncture for all of the benefits it has: prevention, physical healing, emotional healing. It's abundant in all the things it has to offer. So I do a lot of things, but that's the one I go back to over and over all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. I love what you said about, it doesn't have to, it's like, it doesn't have your family story does not have to be your story. So just because your dad had colon cancer doesn't mean you're going to have colon cancer, because your mom had a bad back that you're going to have a bad back. And, I wanted, if I'd love to take it just a step further in the work that I've been doing, and for myself personally and with others, is, I've noticed that there is a component of ancestral healing that takes place. And what I mean by that is that when you see these physical conditions that are carried generation after generation after generation, and then at some point, it's no longer somebody's story. They make a different choice, they make a different decision. Oftentimes it's because whatever energy was held in that part of the body, whatever trauma, whatever origination point of that is, this person has decided this is not going to be my story. And you don't necessarily even have to consciously know the story or what's happening. It's just a different way of being, a different way of thinking, making a different choice. And I think we all have that every single day. It doesn't have to be a huge healing or a huge medical thing that's showing up. It could be a small thing where we decide, I'm not doing this way anymore. I'm making a different choice. And you may or may not realize the enormity of the impact of that choice. And I've seen that quite often recently with people where they have made a different choice as far as the story that they are telling themselves, and have been able to shift away from some pretty significant medical, would be potentially big medical struggle. Go like, I'm not doing it this way. And, I think similar to what you were saying about, you decided, okay, I'm not doing it this way. When you were 20 something, like, this is not how it's going to go. And so I just want to leave people with that, insight as far as it, yes, there's a genetic component, but there's, something called epigenetics, which would be a whole nother episode that we would have to dive into that. But, it doesn't have to be your story. And also, when it comes to anxiety, depression, panic attacks, I know that's a big one that's fairly common with people, and usually a parent or a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle, somebody in the family have the same thing, and they kind of point their finger at that, and that's why I have this. Please don't let that stop you from living a really magnificent life. because it doesn't have to be your story. And if you can shift it for yourself, then you can change it. Think about it in terms of you could change that for your kids or your nieces and nephews and everybody that follows after you. There's a huge ripple effect because we're all connected in some way. So just recognize, you making a different choice can have a tremendously healing and powerful impact for those around you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, it's really, really, really pretty cool. So, okay, to kind of wrap it up here, I have one final question for you, but before we get to that, I did want to ask you too, do you have any tips or thoughts for people, simple things that they might be able to do to support themselves, from that functional medicine standpoint? Like, are there certain things that you pretty much patentedly tell all of your patients when they leave your office?
The beauty of it is there's nothing really patented, everything is so individualized, which is one of the other reasons why I love this medicine so much, is that it's always going to be changing per each patient. But I think one of the things that I would say is sort of look at the things that you do each day or the things that you rely on, because sometimes those small changes are actually the massive changes. For instance, if you always wake up in the morning and you must have coffee, and then you always come home from work and you have to wind down. I know this is like a really, this area here, everybody's like, whoa, she's talking about my coffee and wine. But like, did you need the coffee to wake up? Like, do you need it to function? And then like, can you not sleep because you don't have the wine? What do you need to mellow from? Because sometimes even just those small changes, like what is it in our day that we are doing and for what reasons? Sometimes that's where some of the changes come from. We don't think about it, but even just with a glass of wine, it's going to change our metabolic rate in the next 24 hours, sometimes in half. Well, as women come in and they say, I want to lose weight, but they have 2 glasses of wine every single night, that's something, like that could be a major contributor. So I'm not trying to be the fun police all the time either, but just some of the things that are already happening daily: screen time, staying up too late at night. Are you eating through the day? Are you not eating through the day? What are you eating through the day? How are you eating? Are you eating standing up? So we don't think about it, but some of those things, we do touch on those because sometimes those are where the changes happen first. Sometimes we have to do the things like acupuncture, functional medicine, or all these things, or take supplements and things like that. And so we can really wait for the working part of the lifestyle changes to make those effects happen. And again, working with somebody and then making just small dedications, right, to these small things, make huge, enormous impacts. And it's awesome to watch, and everybody can do it. Without a doubt, everybody can do it.
Well, and I think you just illustrated your empowerment. You're giving the power to the people that come in to see you, and being that facilitator of healing. And like you said, you're not resonant with the word healer, but being a facilitator of their healing, allowing them to take that on themselves and feel really amazing and know, okay, I have Harmony here when I need her, but on the day-to-day stuff, I've got it. Like I can do this. And, it's great to have an awareness around those things. We kind of get into these habits and patterns that show up and we don't really recognize, like, oh, I do have a glass of wine every night and I do need that coffee every morning. And, to kind of illustrate Harmony's point, she's not saying don't, she's just saying, tune into, okay, why? And is there something else you can do? Is there an alternative? Is there a different way you could go? Because I had the same thought about the coffee. And for me, it's not the caffeine, because I don't even do I do half coffee. It's really about the ritual of it. Like that is how I enjoy starting my day, with my journal and my coffee and looking out my window and just settling into the day and clearing out whatever came through, my dreams and all of that, and having a sense of where am I going today. And so it's not about, I need that jolt. I could function just fine without it, but I love the ritual of it. And so, I think that's a good distinction for people. Is it that you need 2 cups to actually function? Or is it,
Right.
is it just like something that you enjoy, that's your ritual, that's you taking care of you? And I mean, you can't really even quantify that. That's pretty cool. Okay, so final question for you, Harmony. Speaking of rituals, what rituals, if any, do you have to tune into your soul's voice when you then you know that your soul is really come online?
What rituals do I do? I mean, I definitely have a meditation practice. I definitely, if I feel like I need, with acupuncture, like if I feel like I was coming down with a cold or something like that, I definitely check in. I do love to take a bath. I feel like I have a nice little arsenal of things in my toolbox where I'm like, what do I need right now? And then I can kind of jump in, whether it's journaling or um, uh, I have a nice little toolbox. So my ritual is probably my meditation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Because it's just a quiet place, and it's a quiet place intentionally, obviously, because usually this mind is going a million miles an hour, thinking of all the things that, what do I want to do with this person? How are we changing this plan? So, I do have it's nice that finally I'm at this place with meditation where I can have a little sanctuary in here when I'm getting quiet with myself.
And what does that look like for you? What does your meditation practice look like?
My meditation practice looks not like a regular meditation practice. Like, I don't believe we should have more rules around these types of things. Like, I don't get up every morning and it's at the same time every day. I think when somebody can put it in their day and it gets done, like, we should celebrate that as a win. I kind of,
100% agree. Yes. Love
yeah, I
that.
kind of coined myself like the meditation rebel, because I think that if it's 5 minutes, celebrate the 5 minutes. If it's 20, then awesome. So I usually, I do have times, like certain days that I know that I can get it in the morning. I have times where I actually stay late at night, and sometimes I get a meditation in like when I'm finishing the day. So I have nice little ways of like putting it in to make it work for me. I would say most of the time they're about 20 minutes. I love them. I love it. But yeah, when people are first starting off, if they say I can only do it for 5 minutes, then fantastic, you did it. And I only did it twice a week. Or, I know you're supposed to do it every day. Let's celebrate the twice a week. We just have to start getting into the patterns of it. But yeah, I don't like any rules around any of that stuff. Like, let's just always find ways to celebrate. And especially when we are like doing something for ourselves, we don't need to be so critical if it was 5 minutes over 20.
Oh, yeah. And I think it kind of boils down to do what feels good to you, really tune
Absolutely.
into and trust yourself. I mean, to kind of bring it full circle to that intuition place where we started is do what feels good to you. If 20 minutes feels good to you and you can fit that in your day anywhere, bravo. If 2 minutes feels good to you and you can only fit that into your day in those few minutes before you get your butt out of bed, good for you. Bravo.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't, I love that. There, no need for the rules. We have enough rules placed upon us.
Absolutely.
So just go with what feels awesome to you. And this conversation felt awesome, Harmony. Thank you so much
Oh,
for
thank you
taking
for
the
having
time.
me.
It was really incredible. And so tell me as well as the listeners, how can we find you, get in touch with you, and learn more about your beautiful space and likely ways that you can support, even if people don't live in the South Florida area.
Yeah, so my practice name is Reclaim Wellness. I'm on all the social media, things. So Facebook, the handle I think on Instagram is Reclaim Wellness Now. And as far as getting in as far as getting in touch, or maybe not being in the area, we do a ton of functional medicine, sort of telehealth. So oftentimes people are like, I really do want to take control of my health. How do I do this? Can we set some, can we do some labs? Can we go over those together? So we do a lot of that as well. The website is www.reclaimwellnessnow.com. And all of the things, all of the platforms, if there's outside events that we do, which are quite often, whether it's sound baths or meditation or crystal workshops or hypnotherapy, workshops or nutrition workshops, whatever it is, whether it's on Instagram, Facebook, or through our email and all of that, you'll be able to kind of keep in touch all of those ways. So
Nice. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I again, thank you so much. It's been a fantastic conversation. I thank you, the listener, or viewer, depending on what platform you're viewing or listening to this on, for being here and being a part of this really beautiful space that we held, that hopefully is resonating with you in some way, that can help support you on your journey. And I am Amalia with Karmic Kindness. You can find me at karmickindness.com and Karmic Kindness on all social media platforms. And I hope to see you again here on the next episode of SoulFull Sessions. Thanks.